Kodiak. I am your humble host, Kodiak. Uh, this will be a opportunity for people in Amgard to get a chance to meet some of the players in our game. I'm going to start with the Kingdom of Dragonspine, obviously, because that's my home kingdom. And I'm going to start with our Kingdom Monarchy for the first couple weeks, just so you get to know who the people are that are in charge currently. That being said, my lovely guest today, Her Royal Highness Queen Balder Lance.
Hello.
How you doing?
Pretty good. How you doing, friend?
I'm doing great. You have the distinction of not only being my first guest on the Kingdom of Kodiak, but you suffered through the whole process of getting Kingdom of Kodiak off the ground today. So look at you.
Go team.
Yeah, go team. So how I want to kind of start this, as I'm going to try to start every one of these episodes, is I'm going to ask you what we're going to call the bare necessities. And I apologize this in advance because there's going to be a lot of bare puns. So the bare necessities are going to be 5 questions to get to know the player that is currently sharing the screen with me. So that being said, where does the persona name come from?
Balder. It's Norse god. Balder for like light, music, beauty, stuff like that. I picked it because when I was 15-ish, I was super into Norse stuff. And it's like, let's see, like, like Thor's too cliche, Odin's too cliche. It's like Loki's too cliche. I like Balder though, so I went Balder.
I guess that answers the other question though. How long you've been playing? It sounds like 15, so that's like 100 years for you, right?
I'm 26 recently. I've been playing for like a month past 10 years.
So in a couple of years, there's going to be new Amgarders that weren't even alive when you started.
Yes.
I mean, they're currently in the future, but all right. So one of the other questions in these bare necessities that I think is kind of interesting, would like to get this is, what award are you the most proud of? That can be a physical award that you were handed, or like you're currently the monarch of our kingdom, if you consider that an award.
So I got my master crown recently, so that should probably be the answer, but that would, I think the award I'm most proud about, like most happy about, is my Lord title that I got like in 2011.
You want to go into any detail about how that came about, or?
Yeah. So I was in the game for, I think, like just shy of a year at that point. And Randall and Azrael Jade were stepping up as Monarch and Regent for DS Crucis.
Right.
And Ben like threw out to the park like, hey, does anybody want to be heir apparent? And it's like, I was like, oh, like it sounds interesting, but like I don't want to. I've only been in the game for a little bit. I don't want to like do that yet. And Ben's like, no, do it. It'll be great. So I declared. I did heir apparent, and I just had a super great time doing the entire process. Like, I learned to sew during that point. Like Amy taught me to sew. I got a chance like to work on like kind of like doing battle game stuff. I made a bunch of props. I learned how to do judging a little bit for ANS, and like at that time, I think the Crucis Park had like 25 to 30 folks.
Wow.
And like I said, like I'd only been in the game for like a couple, like less than a year at that point. So I was like, okay, this is great. I had an amazing time doing it. Like I wasn't even thinking of titles and stuff, and then I ended up getting the lore title. So like at that point, it's like, man, I had a super great time doing this leadership thing. I got this title thing for it. This was like an incredible process, and I think that's kind of like one of the things that kind of got me going, like in really being into Office.
And now full circle, you're a Master Crown.
Now full circle and Master Crown, yeah.
Look at that. It came all the way back to it, even though you didn't want to say it was your favorite. That's cool. So you mentioned that you did some battle game work while you were heir apparent. What is your favorite battle game
Um,
or favorite style of battle game?
uh, that's a. I would. I guess my favorite battle games are like ones that like involve physical, like actual terrain.
Okay.
So like my favorite battle games are usually like at big events that have like kind of makeshift castles or like actual like wooden castle type things.
Hmm.
Uh, so like one of my favorite battle gaming moments was Clan or Guardian the whatever at
GOTC.
that's it GOTC at 2013 or 14 because they I think that was the first year that I was there that they had the castle they had back then.
Right.
And like I have like a bunch of specific memories from that, like having a fun time with like that physical actual castle. Like I remember Dom had a pole arm and he used this like almost pole vault over one of the castle walls.
Yeah.
Like that shit was hilarious. I remember Sir Goldcrest and Sir Randall had gotten like newish chainmail stuff. And I remember like running up and kicking down the gate with them. That was super fun. So just like I like that physical
Sure.
terrain stuff is
Yeah,
what it comes down to, I guess.
I remember the first time we visited the Burning Lands and we got to fight in the first ditch. And there's a lot of
Yeah.
memory. I was like, wow, this is a place. And then it's also got the bridge there. So it's just really intense to be like, oh man, as far as history goes, it's a pretty prominent thing in Amtgard. That's really cool. I like that. Yeah, physical stuff. So last bare necessity then. You had your battle games, you talked about your awards. What about classes? What is your favorite class in Amtgard?
Bard.
Oh, no, it makes me happy. It's
My two favorite classes are honestly Bard and Healer.
mhm.
I feel like those two specifically, unlike the other two magic classes, they kind of like have a very a very clear skill differential.
Sure.
Like you can have like with Druid, like you're not going to see a bad Druid. It's really hard to see a bad Druid. Druid's just fucking broken.
I've tried really hard to be a bad druid, and it doesn't. I'm still awesome.
Same thing with Wizard. Like if the Wizards like are good enough to know their spells and like be able to like recite their spells in a decent time, you're not going to see a bad Wizard.
Right.
But with Bard and Healer, I think it's possible to see like a lot of different skill levels because with those like you have like an entry level that really isn't good at like specific things that those two classes need to rely on that the other two don't. Bard being like being able to like differentiate the spells you need for specific situations and being able to switch between songs. Healer being like being able to not just be a res bot, not just being able to say the heal spell real quick.
Or, not even taking the heal spell out. I know my first month of playing healer, I took a sword on board and was just like, I'm going to wear a sash and play fighter. It's going to be great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And then like, yeah, with those two, you also have like the kind of getting into the class level of like, hey, here's a bard that just takes a million shoves or a million ahs.
Yeah.
And like, they'll think they're the fucking world's greatest bard or something like that. Like it's like nah.
So okay, on the flip side of it, this wasn't a question I was going to ask, but you do have some strong opinions with these. So what's your least favorite class?
My two least favorite classes are Barbarian and Druid. Druid because it's just fucking so bullshit like in the game. Like it really is. And like everyone's like, oh, just take dispels, blah blah blah. Like the amount of dispels you need to shut down one Druid is just fucking staggering.
Yeah,
like
we can do everything.
Like, okay, fine. Like the only 100% way to shut down a Druid is if you have a wizard with their dispels, like their rechargeable dispels, like fine. That can do pretty good. But at the same time, like that wizard's now reliant on just being able to like dispel the druid. The druid still kills the wizard because like, okay, a smart druid just rushes the wizard, kills the wizard, and re-enchants themselves.
Right.
So at the point that like the wizards spent their life, and the druid just like can continue fucking doing their shit because like all they did is just blow another enchantment.
Yeah, wizards just draw a giant target on their chest, be like,
Yeah.
kill me. Yeah.
So yeah, I don't like druid because it's overpowered, and then I don't like. I started playing the game with barbarian, and I want to like get good at barbarian before hopefully V9 buffs it. But my issue with barbarian is that it's super underpowered, and once again everyone's like, "Oh no, barbarian's great," blah blah blah. It's like y'all fucking stupid. Barbarian's trash. Every single class fucking counters barbarian. Okay, maybe not every single. Most of the classes counter barbarian. Like it's not the capstone, but like their signature thing, like their fight after death or whatever. Like they can get greater release from it. Every single class like just fucking blows up her life ability to avoid it.
Right.
Oh, barbarian fight after death in the middle of your team. Monk, sanctuary, fucking assassin, step into shadows, scout, step into shadows, healer, fucking circle of protection, or fucking target themselves with astral intervention. Archer can get fucked. They get fucked by the barbarian.
Yeah, Archer. You heard it first.
uh,
Get fucked.
but yeah, pretty much like they really don't have a lot going on for them. Like, okay, sure, they're supposed to be immune to like subdual and command, but then every single caster has additional spells beyond subdual and command that fuck over barbarians. Like even Bard, which has like mostly just command, still gets terror for fucking over barbarians, or shove for fucking over barbarians. Like, yeah. So either way, those are the two classes
I
I don't
love it.
like. One of them I want to be good. One of them I want them to shit on a little bit with V9.
Oh, well, we'll have opposing opinions on that if they decide to do that with Druid. Uh, yeah. Anyways, so the main topic that I was interested in talking to you about as Monarch of our Kingdom was your use of Convergence Day as a monthly event.
Mhm.
I personally think it's been really good for us as a kingdom. It's gotten a lot of people to travel, mostly the same faces every time, but you're still getting some traveling. You're getting smaller parks, an opportunity to get bigger numbers of like for battle games and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Did you are you seeing a lot of positives out of it coming your way as the Monarch?
So I think Convergence Day is definitely doing kind of what I set it out to do. I've only had technically two that I've called Convergence Days, but really like Mid-Rain was essentially like a Convergence Day-ish thing. I did similar stuff that I've done at Convergence Days at the Mid-Rain.
Right.
Same thing will go for Coronation. Um, but the thing with Convergence Days that I'm trying to push for is for them to kind of fill gaps in the schedule.
Sure.
So at this point, like just looking at our schedule from the Rain, uh, November we had Coronation, we had Maze, everyone traveled for that. So I didn't see it necessary to like do Convergence Day in November. December rolls around, nothing's planned. It's hard to plan stuff because it's December, Christmas, holidays. So I threw a Convergence Day kind of like halfway through that month to kind of get people together for that month and like have that month have something. January still not a lot going on. We throw another Convergence Day in January. February had Mid-Rain near the end of it, so I didn't see it necessary to do that, like to declare a specific Convergence Day.
Right.
This month was going to have Lucha and Southwest Wars,
Yeah.
so we no necessary there. Next month, depending on how things go, I'm hoping the next Convergence Day will be in Dragon Spine Las Cruces.
Ooh, I like that.
The reason for that is depending on how Corona turns out,
Yeah.
our Crown Qualls should be in Wyvern's Roost, Arizona. Our Coronation should be in Glassford's Highlands, Arizona. So although I'd like to continue like hitting up parks in Arizona for convergence, like okay, we can't travel to Arizona 3 times in a row,
Right.
and like we gotta do that back and forth. So
Yeah.
we'll do Arizona, Cruces, Arizona.
Yeah. And I mean, despite the fact that we're floating the crown, it would be super nice to have people come from the kingdom. Um, I know, speaking as a member of the Cruces Park, we're having a blast doing the tavern theme, or we were before Corona decided to kill us all. But um, it would be great to get that implemented with everyone in the kingdom. Also, drumming a dice. Just saying,
Sick dice drums.
sick dice. So you've had all these positives come out of it by having ANS competitions and tournaments, battle games, ruin quests, artifact quests, what have you. What are some negatives that you're seeing out of having convergence days, or what are the negatives that you're hearing at the convergence days?
Um, the so the issue with the convergence days is, and this definitely occurred a little bit more into the Silver City one, is there's so much stuff going on that a lot of people need to get involved in kind of putting stuff together.
Yeah.
And if you don't have enough people, you end up with a little bit more downtime than you'd like. So with the Silver City one, we ended up with most of the leadership within the all thing for about like an hour.
Mm-hmm.
So unfortunately, we had too much downtime when it came to battle game type stuff. Um, and that's kind of like the big issue I've seen with it. Uh, the other thing, like you pointed out earlier, is it's a lot of the same faces traveling. But I think the thing that's okay there is that it's the same faces traveling, but we're traveling to different locations.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, like it's the same like 2 people from PV, 3, 4 people from Crucis, yada yada. But like it's the same 10 people. Like we hit Sun's Haven, we hit Silver City, we are gonna hit Crucis. So it's different people seeing different parts of the kingdom, and like those shires that aren't traveling a lot, uh, will hopefully be able to see like, hey, here's a bunch of people from around the kingdom coming to your area to say hello.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, given the Convergence Day, and I know this was going to be a question I was going to ask later, but you have a pretty strong stance on Kingdom Champion.
Mm.
So, having a strong stance on Kingdom Champion, that being that you don't necessarily think it's necessary, it does create some duty that you could give to your Kingdom Champion. Be like, hey, make this Convergence Day and keep them busy. Thoughts?
Uh, so that would be something I could throw onto the champion.
There you
That's
go.
true, but for the most part, um, I recognize that a lot of people like champion, and I think it's a good option for kind of entering into office and kind of getting to know the ropes. Um, but at the same time, it's it has so little guidance that if you either a don't have a monarch that's telling you exactly what you need to do, or if you
Mhm.
don't like that, or b you don't really have a plan yourself going to champion, you're gonna have a terrible time doing champion on the kingdom level.
Sure.
Um, so I know when I did champion, when Mel did champion, we both kind of like had plans going into it. We wanted to do like the champion challenge stuff. I
Mhm.
know Gideon had some plans as well, but he ended up leaving the kingdom for now. But I've also seen champions in the past like not necessarily have a perfect plan, and then their leadership not necessarily giving them the guidance they might need
Mhm.
because it was their first office or their first kingdom level office they didn't know what they were getting into, and they felt like they didn't accomplish much and got a little jaded in the process.
Sure, but this is a coachable moment for members of the Kingdom office that, if you've got a new champion, someone who's been in office before, take the opportunity to coach them up as their monarchy team around them.
Yeah,
And if you are going to be in that position, be prepared to have to be creative because doesn't have a defined role yet.
correct. But my other thought on this is like, if it's going to be such a vague thing, I would like to maybe see a change where like it is an official position, but it's an optional one.
Okay.
Whereas like if the champion spot doesn't get filled, no one's gonna be like, gasp, the champion spot didn't get filled. Oh my god! But like instead, it's like, hey, if anybody does want to fill a champion spot, that'd be cool. the Monarch might need the help. The Monarch might specifically like try to push for a specific person to fill the champion role. But I think as it stands now, like it doesn't need to have pressure of needing to be in office. I think it should be an optional thing.
Okay, that's fair.
Like still able to like get awards, still able to like even do like the defender thing, like still do that. But I just don't think it should be required.
All right. So we've covered the second topic that I really wanted to hit, because I knew Kingdom Champion was a point of contention with you. We've talked about that quite a bit on these convergence days and general meetings overall. It's not something that you're a fan of, which is fine, I guess. But you know, we'll agree to disagree on it, I guess. So I wanted you to define a couple of things for me based on your little viewing you did last week. Okay.
Right.
First is, you mentioned the term phase 4. So we're talking about phase 4 of the transition at that point. Can you just give us a little bit of oversight to what entails or what is entailed in phase 4?
So it's one of those things where I'm not super comfortable like just like throwing all the phase 4 stuff out now, because it's still under works a little bit. It's still getting like hashed out. But the idea with phase 4 is that this should be the last phase.
Okay.
Like almost everything, pretty much everything should be done when we go into this phase. And it's almost like phase 4 is the waiting trial period to say like, hey, look, everything's pretty much flowed at this point. Everything's almost done. Let's see how this is going for like 6 months or so. Everything went cool. Okay, fine. Although at this point, there's nothing left to transition or whatever, we're going to say the transition's done. Like in theory, it should be pretty much done with phase 4. And it's just seeing if things worked and seeing if like any more changes are necessary.
All right. I know that when we had talked, or when talks have been had about this, phase 4 being the end of it, there was a lot of concern about where it's going to stand. Like, there won't be anything left to do per transition, but is there going to be any issues still that need to come along? Minor things, I would assume, but I just wanted to make sure we understood phase 4 is should be the last step. You mentioned 6 months, but would you be comfortable on camera live to Dragonspine saying that 6 months to a year would be the end time for that? Or
oh yeah, I'm comfortable saying 6 months to a year is where that will be.
All right.
I know some folks would like to do a year, but like if things are looking fine, like I see no issue saying, okay, clearly we've had 6 months of successfully doing this. Things are getting done. Like why not end it soonish? Like at that point, because there's nothing else to float. It's just like the watching and waiting period. Right. But yeah, I will throw a good bitch fit if it goes beyond a year.
I feel like a lot of people will. And at that point, they had to have good reason at that point. Patience is something that we've tried to push for this, but yeah. So the next one I wanted you to define for me, it may not be as feasible because it's changed a little bit since I decided I wanted to ask you about it, but I know there was discussion of what the Kapora team is right now. As someone who was working on a Kapora at one point with you, for you, what have you, I just wanted you to kind of give some insight to do we have multiple people working on it? Is there any names you'd be comfortable throwing out there that are working on it? Are you still looking for people that work on it?
So at this point, the Kapora committee consists of Ben, Amy, and Cleo.
Okay.
Cleo, tell me if I'm wrong. Ben, tell me if I'm wrong. But they have no real tasks at the moment. due to the changes with the floating process. But once we get going in the next phase, my big goal is going to be, like I said in my discussion last week, my big goal is going to be getting the Kapora done with Kingdom involved.
Awesome.
And to that extent, my big thing I want the Kapora committee to be doing, and I'll possibly change up like members for people who might be interested in this or might know how to do this, is get it to be more Kapora appropriate, legalese appropriate, stuff like that, and get it rolled into the Kapora in a proper way versus just tacking everything on repeatedly as an amendment.
Absolutely.
What I'm essentially going to like to see done, so we're going to get phase 4 posted and up hopefully someday soonish. Once that's up, my immediate thing is going to be getting the
Good push.
Kapora to include all the amendments. So that way we can have something to work off of, like just roll all the amendments, all the changes into one proper Kapora, then work off of that for changes. Okay. I know if you look online, a lot of folks are like, oh, it shouldn't take this long to do a Kapora. Oh, just copy paste someone else's Kapora. That's not going to work. Fuck other people's Kaporas. We want our Kapora. We want a Kapora that Dragonspine people have made. Not, hey, let's just copy some Texas Antguard. Let's just copy Wetlands. Let's just copy Polaris. It's like, sure, we can like steal things here and there from them, but like there's like, oh, I like the way Wetlands is doing this. Let's take that and apply this here. Oh, I like the way Polaris is doing that. Let's apply that here. Like, sure, like specific things, but like we're gonna benefit nothing from like stealing a whole Kapora.
No, I agree, and I think it's good that, you know, as the Monarch, you're putting out there like, hey, like I also want it done too, but we're not just gonna copy and paste someone else's stuff.
Like, so I just got a message from a member of the Kapora committee. A Kapora with all the amendments already inserted exists as a draft. Cool. So that'll be once we get into the next phase, let's get that draft finalized and get that posted.
Awesome. Fantastic. So the last thing I wanted you to define for me that you mentioned in your post last week was the term gatekeeping. This is not for people who've been playing the game for a long time, but I'm sure we have some new players that need to have the definition put in front of them. So when they become veteran players, they're more aware of the term and what it actually means.
Different people, I'm sure, will have different definitions for pretty much anything. And then some asshole's going to post, oh, this is the definition from Merriam-Webster Dictionary or whatever. But the way I see gatekeeping is it's essentially that when individuals achieve recognition or status or titles and stuff like that, if they attempt to set a standard to hold lower people and other people too, that is the simplest way of looking at gatekeeping.
Okay, above and beyond the standard.
So yeah, so okay. The big issue with gatekeeping is like when that gatekeeping becomes too much. Like, yeah, like there should be some standard for knights. There should be some standard for dukes. There should be some standards for masters. Like, that's fine. Even in the even in the rule book, we have like kind of defined standards. The issue is, like you said, sometimes people are like, oh, well, let's make this standard even harder. Like, they're probably not doing it on purpose or saying it that way, but like that's what they're doing. They're making the standard more and more and more, where it's kind of impossible. So the easiest one to look at is Warlord and Sword Knight. Mm-hmm. The standard there is that like win 21 in a row, win a kingdom tournament. But in certain places, that standard is fucking hard. Especially in DS, where we have like 3 amazing sword knights who love to go to tournaments and smoke people.
They're big fans of
Just
that.
just this last tournament, like we had 2 amazing up and coming fighters. Some people would consider them warlord level, like in parts of the game. Uh, and the sword knights smoked them. Smoked them.
Yeah.
Same thing with tournaments in the past. We've had like amazing up and coming fighters. It's not even up and coming. We've had amazing fighters just get smoked by the sword knights. Once some folks would argue, "Hey, you're a sword knight. Why are you participating in these tournaments? Like, let people get their wins. Let people get that level." The sword knights counters like they want to keep that standard up. Like it's
Absolutely.
the standard that they had to be like good fighters when they came into the title. So other people need to be good fighters also. The issue, of course, is that sword knights are with fighting up until the point where they quit the game or get too old and broken to play. They're going to keep improving. They're going to keep practicing. So standards are going to keep going up and up and up and up and up and up. Sir Anatole was just on, or might still be on, a stream talking about fighting. Like he ain't just gonna like not go to a tournament for like a little bit. Like he's gonna show up. Like, even if he's not going to the tournament, he's gonna get Eric to go to the tournaments.
Yeah.
They're gonna make sure someone's at the tournament.
So far it's been that where we've heard outright that the sword knights talk and they're like, hey, someone needs to attend the tournament.
Mhm.
With that being said, though, in a scenario where no sword knights made the tournament and it's not deemed of quality, is that a scenario where we've got to look at it and go, these guys have been showing up to tournaments and fighting and they didn't make this one. If this person, this next level fighter, can get their objective completed, even without a sword knight being there for quality, maybe we need to consider moving forward.
And that's a good point. And that's kind of where you kind of get into the more toxic side of gatekeeping, where it's supporting people's standards even when the people trying to set those standards themselves aren't enforcing it.
Right.
It's hard to like say, "Hey, sword knight, no, we're not gonna keep the standard." When the sword knight themselves are like, "Okay, fine, I'll go to a tournament and enforce this standard. I'll shit on anyone who wants to be a sword knight if like they're not a good fighter." Not in a mean way, but if they're not showing up, it's going to be very hard to enforce that standard, especially a couple years down the road. I know Isaac's not necessarily out right now, but maybe in a couple of years he's going to be out for a while. Eric's young. He's probably going to be good for a bit, but I know Charles also might be out for a bit soon. He's getting kind of older.
Oof, he's the same age as me.
Oof.
So
yeah, I don't mean those like in mean ways, of course. It's just like you're going to care a little bit less about wacky bats and keeping the wacky bat standard at some point.
Just for those who are trying to keep K5 alive in this, that's Shion Anatole and Sane. For the rest of you that are okay with the mundane and the nudity of Amtgard, that's Charles, Eric, and Isaac. I mean, sorry to blow up your spot, but
yeah, it's fine.
All right. So we already talked about your stance on Kingdom Champion. I've got a couple of questions from the people, the populace. The first one's near and dear to my heart, so I'm going to get it out of the way first, and then we'll get to the more in-depth to wrap us up. But there was a question put up earlier this week by Stillhelt, I believe, from Cloud's Edge. She needs to know your stance on bears.
Bears?
Yes.
Mm.
Choose your words wisely, sir.
Let's see. I forget. Are pandas a bear or like a raccoon thing?
I mean, I've heard them called panda bears.
Okay, I don't know.
I mean, they could also be raccoons. What's your stance on bear raccoons?
I don't know, dude. I don't know bears. Bears suck. Wow. Polar bears are pretty cool, okay. But like other bears, like they spook you out of forests and they take your shit, and then you need to call the ranger to come get your picnic basket. get your picnic basket back.
So, not a fan of bears. Still, you have your answer. I hope that sways your opinion of him if he ever runs against me again in an election. Okay, so the bigger question that we had came from Sir Francis, and that had to do with the
Sir Francis. Sorry to interrupt you. Sir Francis does say, "Bears make great rugs."
See, and you don't necessarily have to kill the bear to make a great rug. You just got to subdue a bear. I speak for bear kind at this point, sir. Anyways,
okay, sorry.
Anyways, Sir Francis had asked you to comment on the post that went to the AmpGuard page about disallowing political, social, and or controversial topics on the AmpGuard International page.
I think it's dumb. I'm gonna vote against that proposal, just if anyone's interested in knowing that. I agree that at times the main page or the main group does have some issues with people kind of being assholes or people kind of calling people out rudely. So it needs to instead be like, hey, moderators, even if someone's trying to be pro this, pro that, like please tell people to tone it down a bit. Like I know that's tone policing, but in some cases, like, hey, I know you're having a rough time, but telling somebody like they're a fucking Nazi cunt piece of shit on the Facebook page is kind of a shitty thing to do, and you should probably not do that.
Yeah.
Not to say that your discussion is going to be had, but like, hey, like I think the mod should be like, hey, please don't say Nazi cunt piece of shit. But yeah, other than that, like improving like the moderation structure, like I think this proposal is really not going to accomplish anything. It's going to have a lot of negative impacts, and overall I disagree with it. I have a couple of major issues with it. The first foremost is like the wording is super vague and subjective.
A lot of words that need to be defined still.
Yeah, and then like who defines them? Like how do you define them? Like how do you enforce that? Just to say, okay, you can't post political, social, controversial topics. What's political? A lot of folks would argue, hey, trans rights aren't a political thing. Trans rights is human rights. Human rights aren't political. A lot of folks would argue social rights aren't political. And what the fuck's wrong with posting social stuff on a social page? And then controversial is even worse. Like, what is controversial? Like, anything can become controversial, like immediately. Just a discussion about this proposal has become a controversy. So it would just become everything is censored. The group would just become a page. And on that topic, my second thing is, why don't we just, if the big issue is like, oh, we're scaring off new folks. Oh, new folks are seeing all these issues and not wanting to come to our game. Just close the page then and tell people to go to the page. Like have the Facebook AmpGuard page be the landing point for new folks, not the Facebook AmpGuard group. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about, that's part of the issue. We actually have a page for AmpGuard. I was in a fucking chat with the COM the other day. Most of them didn't know we had a page.
Right.
Because it's just not used. We should be using that because that fits better for what a lot of folks want to see the group become. Announcements, news, promotion, and events. That's stuff you can see on a page, whereas a group is for discussion and community. This proposal would shut down discussion and community. My second big issue is that there is, and I've seen zero evidence supporting the claim that argument and discourse on the group is causing new players to not want to come to the game and new players to leave the game. When asked to like, hey, is there any data like for this? All that's been shown is like, hey, here's a chart that shows AmpGuard attendance has been down over a course of like 10 years. It's like, I don't see how that's connected to the people being controversial on the AmpGuard page. And without any evidence supporting this claim, it very much looks kind of retaliatory and targeted at a group that isn't necessarily directly related to the issue that they're trying to address, and they have no way of relating them to that issue. So it can very easily be seen like, hey, look, minorities are speaking up in the game and talking about potential like legal action. Let's suppress them.
No.
Bad move.
No, the data that you're talking about has been used in multiple different circles about multiple different parts of AmpGuard, though. You know, if it's AmpGuard's numbers are down, well, yeah. Is it gatekeeping? We talked about that earlier. Is it social injustice, what have you? You know, it's multiple factors.
And truth be told, like, I've seen more people. Okay, it's 100. I've seen plenty of people say, hey, I'm only comfortable playing AmpGuard versus other games because recent social justice and player protection pushes. And I personally think people seeing like a community pushing against shitty behavior, even if it's aggressive and online and public, I think that's more welcoming than saying, oh no, look, we're a perfect, bright, sunny place. Please come to AmpGuard. Oh, now that you're in AmpGuard, guess what? Here's fucking Nazi culture. Here's fucking sexual assault. Here's shitty sides of AmpGuard. Now that you're in, oh, you didn't want to stay past a month. Well, at least we got your sign in for the year, so now we can put that on that yearly average. Right. It's fucking stupid. People are focusing way too much on not retention. Like, who the fuck cares about like this first public image? Like, there's no evidence supporting this proposal. And that's my big thing. That being said, like I said, I would be okay with closing the group because it can be a little off-putting to some folks. I don't think it's enough to like drive people away. I think if people want to play AmpGuard, they're going to play AmpGuard. If they see AmpGuard and like, hey, I really want to get into a LARP. Oh, AmpGuard's near me. Okay, I'll go try AmpGuard. Oh, there's a pro-Nazi guy like in Montana and I live in California. Ooh, maybe I don't want to join AmpGuard. That's not happening.
Well, even if it is happening, it's not happening on the scale that they're addressing it as.
Yeah.
Because there's someone in Montana that may be infected by it, but the people, yeah, you're right. People in California they shouldn't be looking at that and saying, I don't want to play AmpGuard because someone in a different state is being offensive.
Yeah. One of the big arguments, if anyone looks at the main page and sees the big discussions, one of the big arguments people are trying to make in favor of this is, oh, we're not trying to censor folks and trying to bury like our problems under the rug. We're just trying to have it so that like it gets posted at local kingdom level and other groups. But that's, once again, fucking stupid. Because all that's going to do is it's going to make people post issues to their local kingdom groups and their local park groups, which will have much more of an impact on immediate players because most people don't pay attention to the national group.
Right.
But a lot of people will be paying attention.
You're talking about
controversy.
Right. You were breaking up a little bit. No, okay, but you were talking about that earlier with the Circle of Monarchs not even necessarily knowing about the page or the group or the difference of the two.
Yeah.
And then you want to go to the people who aren't in leadership and expect them to know that those things exist. And that's silly.
And then once again, like if something does kind of push up to a national level, like, okay, fine. Certain like controversies probably can be handled at a kingdom level. But if they're not, and if it is a national AmpGuard level type thing, like how about a positive one? Women's fighting.
Right.
If you like let's say in the Dragonspine Kingdom page, or even different, let's say in the Pegasus Valley Park page, there becomes a huge discussion about women's fighting tournaments.
Mm-hmm.
If anybody wants to get like extra involvement in that, they need to post that to the Kingdom page to try to bring in more of the Kingdom into that. And then after that, they're like, hey, this is a national topic. Then they would just go and post it to every single Kingdom page. Hey, Link, come check out this thing in this fucking one park. Link, come check out this one thing. Link to here, link to Wetlands, link to Polaris, link to Westmarch. and it'd just be the same thing as before with the national group. But now it's much more problematic because people that really don't give a fuck about national level AmpGuard are actually being subject to, or could actually be subject to, seeing every single controversy because it's being posted to every single Facebook group rather than just the national group. Because, and also, here's the last thing, because I don't care about this anymore. It's the fucking, the last argument people were saying like, oh, it shouldn't have, like 500 people shouldn't have to see this and everyone shouldn't have to get involved in this dirty laundry. You don't fucking have to. You can see like the first line, they're talking about something you're not interested. No, thank you. Move on. You don't fucking have to get involved in everything.
Right. I thought you had a conclusion statement there, but yeah, you're absolutely right. Good. Yeah, no, if you guys don't like the topics that are being talked about, don't do the topics. Additionally, you know, other steps have to be taken. So we're coming up on 50 minutes. I do want to give you an opportunity to, because you were kind of bombarded with the questions I had. Is there anything that you want to let the kingdom know at this point, or the players of AmpGuard, or anything that you think you should get out there?
Let's see. So, more coronavirus update. How about that?
Sure.
So, in New Mexico, our governor has advised us to stay shut down for a while. Pegasus Valley, for example, was intending to shut down last weekend, this weekend, and then get back to it next weekend on the in April.
Right.
But it was advised instead we wait till April 10th-ish before we start kind of slowly integrating back into society. So a good chunk of the kingdom, at least New Mexico, probably won't be getting back up until April 11th. So next weekend, the 28th, and the following weekend, the 4th of April, we're going to be offering bonus credits. We're going to be offering classes. We're going to be offering discussions, seminars, and teaching opportunities in Discord. So nice. If you want to earn bonus credits, hop into Discord. I'm going to be working with experts in different fields of AmpGuard, history, ANS, fighting, stuff
heraldry?
Like that.
Heraldry?
Heraldry?
Ben, are you still listening? Heraldry? Ben? All right, sorry, go ahead.
We're going to kind of put on like a couple Discord courses for people to kind of get involved in. And like I said, if you get involved in those classes, we're going to be offering you bonus credits.
Fantastic. That's awesome to hear. I was also told that it was going to be around the 10th for businesses, non-essential businesses to come back off the ground. So I figured the 10th would be somewhere around a comeback date for AmpGuard. That being said, current dates of importance for our kingdom, what do we have? I mean, outside of next week and the following week, we're going to be doing Discord, but what about, I don't know, we do have crown quals, coronation, stuff like that coming up.
So, believe it or not, we only have month and a half-ish left in the reign. Crown quals should be hosted in Wyvern's Roost on the 18th of April. Things will slowly be integrating back into society following the 10th, and I'm hoping that in theory we should get a week of society at least before they do like another shutdown, hopefully.
Right.
I lost all my tabs. Where is anything? Oh, it's down here. So at this point, I'm expecting crown calls should probably be happening.
Okay.
Unless like there's some crazy additional outbreak, I'm pretty sure it should be happening.
I do want to expand on that real quick, but Cleo does have a question that pertains to the credits. I want to get that out of the way before we get too far along. She wants a formal explanation of how you want these credits done. like go into the org and add them as credits, reconcile. Yeah.
So that's actually a good question. I was thinking about this the other night. I'm not sure how folks have been doing it so far. My brain's been like, oh, just put in bonus credits, it's fine. But also in theory, like, why not just let it count as like the actual credit for the day? Like, why not just put it in like as an actual credit?
Right. Okay.
Because like the idea is like a lot of local monarchs are like saying, hey, do something at home to get that credit. So people are definitely amp guarding in some of these situations.
Right.
And once we do the Discord thing with the bonus credits, people will certainly be involved in amp guard. So I'm at a point where I would be fine saying like, hey, let these count as your park credits. I don't know if I have that power. It's a Kapoor thing. But if I do, it's fine for park credits.
Okay. Fantastic.
Election's going to get changed up anyway, but at that point, it's just kind of to make your orc look good.
So going back to Crown Qualls, if we're not allowed to get back into large groups by the 18th, as someone who is going to be running for an office at the kingdom level and would need to turn these calls in, how do arts and science that I can't hand to you? What do we do? What is the beginning processes for those kind of things?
Everyone has to do Bardics. Only online Bardics. Let's hear them.
Does this count as a bardic? Because it seems like I'm doing.
No. So if it gets to a point where we have to do kind of like a different thing, we definitely just like, hey, no food entries. The tournament's pretty much canceled, and it would come down to either an all thing vote or Crucis approval. But at that point, our options are either A, just say, hey, please enter 5 pictures of things you made, or B, fuck it, everyone's qualled.
I mean, we probably. I don't know if someone that's been playing the game longer can correct me if needed, but it's probably been the first time that people have been forced away from AmpGuard for this long. Where, like, I know that Annabelle Lee, Dame Annabelle Lee, has offered to teach me how to sew a shield cover. But if I can't physically be in Wyvern's Roost to turn in a shield cover, a picture of a shield cover will have to do. You know,
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that's out there for people.
No, yeah, there will be no negative consequences, is what this comes down to. We will work with the Kingdom All thing and Crucis DS to figure out the best way to kind of go about the situation. And it's probably one of those 2 options I gave out there. Like, we're not gonna be like, hey, Kodiak, you didn't show up to Wyvern's Roost when no one else did. How dare you?
Well, you know, as the only one running for Monarch, you can just pro-tem me, I guess, and we'll go from there, guys. We'll make Dragonspine great again, I guess. Kind of starting with not being able to play Amtgard. So I don't know. It's been rough. I do like the idea of turning pictures in for people to get some credits. I hate the idea of food being off the table because anyone that knows I'm not an artisan by any trait, I feel like those are easy ins and outs for me. But if that's what's decided, I will bend. Is there any other dates that you wanted to get out there? We have right now the 18th would be Wyvern's Roost. The
Yeah.
following week is
So I have 18th Wyvern's Roost, 25th nothing. The 2nd of May is Convergence Day, DS Las Cruces. The 9th of May is nothing. And then the 16th of May is Kingdom Coronation in Glassfield Highlands.
Ooh, this can be so much fun. Oh man, I can't believe this rain is kind of flew. It just flew by.
Yeah.
It seemed like only yesterday you and I were sitting on a seesaw doing a debate about who's going to be put in office.
Man, I fucked up my leg on that seesaw.
Well, you didn't. It didn't hurt your election. I'm not bitter. Okay. Well, Balder, I do appreciate you coming and being my first guest, kind of being my guinea pig to see how this would work out.
It
Uh,
was fun.
a lot of great topics were had. Uh, as far as Kingdom of Kodiak goes for the future, our next episode, which will be either next Wednesday or Thursday, depending on when she is available, will be Zana
Regnum.
Regnum. Sorry, I practiced it and still got it wrong. Um, our current pro tem champion of the kingdom. As far as this week goes, again, Balder, thank you for joining us. If there's nothing else you'd like to say, I'd like to wrap this up. Could you oh, there's a clarification thing. I didn't see. No, I think that's all the questions I had. Was there any questions given to you specifically?
I got nothing.
Okay,
I'm
fantastic.
scrolling through a little chat to see if there's any questions, but
Yeah.
I don't see anything. Someone said, "Could you clarify this?" I have no idea what they're asking for me to clarify. Oh, it's reply to Lars. Then. Never
Yeah,
mind.
it's sort of
Okay.
reply. So I'd like to point out for a first episode, 47 comments on the video. We have 15 people watching as of this moment. That's great. We did a great job with this. Again, Balder, thank you for being the first guest. Again, Zana will be next week. And just look at the page for any updates. Additionally, guys, given that we are in lockdown right now with the coronavirus, if you are in need of having a chat with anyone, please reach out to me or I'm sure anyone on our Monarchy team and we can talk. Don't feel like you're alone through this process. Please reach out. That being said, I'm gonna close this and we're gonna end it for the day. Thanks, bud. Appreciate it. I love you. Have a great day. Bye.